Hello, everybody. I am back. And today I'm really excited. I'm sitting virtually with Matthew Herman, one of the founders of Boysmells, the beloved brand. And I'm really excited to just dive in and get to know you better so that our audience really learns the why behind the brand, because I think it's really very special and very impactful as well as inspiring. So welcome.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here, Indy. I'm such a fan, and I can't wait to share, everything that you want to know about.
Yes.
And hopefully I get to ask some questions too.
You can ask as many as you want. I love this when it's more interactive. Otherwise, it's just me asking questions. So yeah, this is just us chit-chatting and getting to know each other so that our audience gets to know us both too in a different way. So
Fantastic.
this podcast is all about coming clean, really sharing your passion and how it often turns into your purpose, right? And it's really to inspire others to pursue what their purpose is in life and really to live life on their own terms in a very powerful way. And so your brand is all about self-acceptance, right? And imagining products in the personal care space, the beauty space, and now outside of that, so we'll talk a little bit about that are fluid. And I'm really hoping you can share with us your why, right?
Yeah.
There had to be a pivotal moment where you and your partner, David, realized, okay, you need to create change in this industry. And that was going to be via Boysmells. So could you share that with me? Because it's so interesting to me.
Yeah, totally. I mean, to be totally honest with you, there wasn't that pivotal moment where we're like, we're going to go and shake this up. We really created this brand based off of who we are genuinely as individuals, and that in turn just kind of led to the brand becoming what it is and being adopted, and I'll go by a great group of people, and I'll go into all of that, but I can just start by saying that before I was in the candle industry, I was a fashion designer, and I was a fashion designer for most of my professional life. I've just been doing Boysmells for the past 5 years. So it's just a small fraction of my professional history. But even when I was in fashion design school and I was, working as a fashion designer, creating, worlds and cultures and like what the brand stood for and what it meant to people, to me was always the most exciting part of it, right? And I loved the iconography of fashion. I loved the way that it could tease at culture and provoke ideas and comment on culture. I always loved fashion theory, and I love the way in which fashion is a true mirror and dialogue back to what's happening in culture. So that aspect of it was always super fascinating to me. I was kind of a designer's designer, kind of I love to nerd out in the history of things and the importance of this movement and then this movement and how it just kind of layered on all of our understandings and kind of all of our reference points, which then informed how we dress and go about the world today. So that was always super important to me. And at the time that we started Boysmells, I had moved to LA to be a design director at Nasty Gal, which was kind of a fashion D2C darling.
I think everybody listening to this podcast knows what Nasty Gal is.
Yeah, exactly. And a part of the company culture there was really to have a side hustle and to cultivate something that you're excited in. Yeah. I was so surprised when it was part of orientation. They just asked obviously that you're transparent about that you're that you have it going on, but that entrepreneurship was definitely a part of company culture. And one of my first days there was the day that #GirlBoss came out. I read that, and it kind of demystified a little bit of starting your own business to me. So when I met David, my partner, he was also working in fashion as head of production for a luxury cashmere line. And, we were talking just about being not having stores that we really felt reflected who we were. It was we're always going with our girlfriends to these kind of more hyper feminine, luxury fashion boutiques. And then there was, of course, these more men's stores, but like having been in New York, I was kind of missing something that was a little bit more like forward, like than what I was seeing in LA, because I hadn't really like adapted to like the LA casual vibe yet, you know. And we were also
definitely a vibe. It's definitely a vibe.
Exactly. I didn't think I'd ever be like in sandals like at work, but you know, here we are. And so, you know, when we were talking about just like being, you know, queer individuals, men, but like also not really relating to like those stores that you would see like maybe in Chelsea in New York or in West Hollywood in LA, like as like queer like individuals, we didn't really relate to that. We also like didn't relate to these like more like bro-y kind of like, you know, men's stores. So, and we were also like, you know, at this pivotal point, we're like looking more towards our home. Like, what do we want to have like in our environment? Like, what's our quality of life? You know, like how do like the things that we wear and own like reflect kind of like more like our ideals and things like that?
Sure. You know, there's a Buddhist saying that you are a mirror of your environment, and that's exactly what you're speaking to. 100%.
Yes, exactly. So, you know, at that point too, I think I was also coming through some sort of like really like stepping into like my truth of my identity and like my true power of like living in myself. I think as queer individuals, like we spend a lot of our lives trying to figure out like what parts of our personality did we develop to kind of like protect ourselves, and like what parts of our personality are like truly genuine to ourselves if we'd like grown up in like a 100% safe and encouraging environment.
Sure.
And I'm very blessed. I don't feel like I grew up in an unsafe environment, but like there are micro reactions and, you know, marketing and you know, the media that kind of inform like a cultural idea of like what it means to be queer, which is like a little bit dangerous. So, you know, I was kind of getting to this point where I was really like unpeeling like the layers of that onion and like getting back to this like really honest and exciting point in my life where I was feeling like very like centered and arrived and like in my own power of myself. And a part of that was, you know, embracing fragrances that I wore that were more traditionally feminine, you know.
Interesting.
Like we haven't started gendering fragrance till like this century, like right around the same time that we came up with like blue for boys and pink for girls. And so by calling Boysmells, but putting it in a pink box.
I thought that was such an interesting juxtaposition and really making a very powerful statement too.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't think about it that way. We were just like, literally David was like, what do you want to call it? And I was like, let's call it Boysmells and put it in a pink box. Like it was not like hire a marketing team and like come up with some big, you know, mission. It was really instinctual and like what felt true to us as individuals. And it was supposed to be a side hustle, right? Like this was like
that's the interesting part. I had no idea that this was supposed to be a side hustle. And by the way, kudos to Nasty Gal for embracing and empowering their team to do that, to explore that side of them. It's not often you hear that.
Totally. I mean, that place was so fun to work for. And not only that, but the team that I had there, like we're still so close. It was a very special place. Yeah, so we called it Boysmells, put it in the pink box, and we thought we were making something kind of for us and like almost like talking to ourselves a little bit, but we were okay with it because like there's going to be this small thing that we did on the weekends and like, you know, all
sure.
good. But when we came out with it, all of my girlfriends in fashion were like, oh my God, I love this. And I realized like when I'm sitting there, like I'm this guy, I'm like designing all the dresses. I look across the table from me and my girlfriend is wearing like jeans and leather. And she's like the design director for like all of leather, all of denim. And, you know, she's wearing Tuscan leather by Tom Ford. And I'm like, and I'm over here wearing like Tulip by Byredo. And it's like, you know, I can see like, you know, crossing the binary in scent is like, you know, it's a really safe, fun place to explore, you know, the other side of things. And I think that like a lot of my girlfriends love wearing like a more masculine scent because it gives permission for them to kind of like step into that power spot, you know, of being like, you know what, I am going to go in, I'm going to get this done. Because in this weird way, it's like men's colognes or men's fragrances, they're supposed to be like woody and musky because they're like strong and capable, and like women's fragrances are supposed to be like florals because they're soft and delicate and fragile and sensitive, you know. But like the truth is like I am capable and I have my emotions. My sensitivity is my strength. Like me being a whole vision of myself and like me embracing my entire like spectrum of masculine to feminine power. That is what allows me to, that's my superpower, right?
I love it. I love that you know what your superpower is. And I completely agree. What I love about Boysmells is we're taking down those labels, right? And really embracing fluidity, because we all have a masculine and feminine side. Whether we choose to look at it, that's a personal choice, but we all have it.
Yeah. And nobody wants to be held to outdated expectations of their gender to like inform how like who they become as adults and human beings in this world, right? Like toxic masculinity like is, you know, such a product of like this like irrational, non-sensitive, non-emotional, always strong version of masculinity that like, you know, is really off-putting to me. And like, you know, there's just everybody's, I think, should be released from the outdated gender expectations that like still permeate. But like you go into the bathroom, like granted, like, you know, we love to mix masculine and feminine scent notes together. That's kind of like traditionally masculine and feminine scent notes mixed together. It's kind of like the olfactive like sieve of like how we evaluate like everything that we do. But if you go into an Old Navy, it's like women over here, men over here. You go into, you know, your bathroom, like it's like Dove is to be like soft and feminine and Old Spice is to be hard and masculine. And like just growing up with those kind of like gender directions.
Well, look at the name Axe, like this masculine,
exactly.
You know what I mean?
It's crazy. So, you know, I think that I created Boysmells because I wanted, like if a brand like that existed when I was younger, I think I would have been healthier because of it. And that's what really drives us, our purpose today. So most brands or a lot of brands use like the term genderless. So Boysmells' core tenet is gender fullness.
I definitely want to talk. I think what a beautiful, beautiful phrase. So I'm so glad you brought that up because that was where I wanted to go.
I'm obsessed with it. And it is really it's our North Star for the brand, right? It is to embrace our inner spectrum of gender, embrace like the powers on both sides of the binary. It is like a yin and a yang. It is a solar and a lunar, the combination of which makes stellar. You know, like it is about like harnessing this full idea of yourself, which is like your greatest power source. And I think that from everything from our collabs to the way we create product and mix scent notes, like everything we do goes through the filter of gender fullness. And I think that it is a post-binary mark of inclusion that celebrates everybody in their true form. And it's something that we're proud of and that we love. And it's something that like every time I talk about it, every time I'm able to like bring it back to our product, like it really truly makes me happy. And that is just the power of like being able to do something I love and I have the honor of doing it. It's great.
You love what you do. You never work a day in your life. Matthew, because when we started Indie Lay, right, when we created it, I didn't want it to be flowery. I didn't want those floral, packaging. I wanted it so that it can sit on anyone's, nightstand vanity and stand by itself. I wanted it to look elegant. I wanted it to look chic, but I didn't want it to look masculine or feminine. I wanted it to look very clean. For very similar reasons, I didn't feel that skincare and personal care was feminine or masculine. It was a personal care. It was taking care of yourself, mind, body, and soul. But what you have done with Boysmells is just completely, really bringing it to the forefront. And I truly believe revolutionizing this, binary idea, because it's not one versus the other. It's everything in between.
Totally. I always joke like if I came out with like a fashion style guide, it would be called Carhartt and Pearls.
I'd wear it.
Yeah, like that's like pretty much like my day-to-day. I mean, not right now, but like that's like my day-to-day outfit is just like we are all a mix like of things, and like identity is, and sometimes they're contradictory and polarizing. And like, you know, you were going to go and wear your like entrepreneur drag or your mom drag or your yoga drag or like whatever, you're going to go out there and like have this compartmentalized aspect of who you are, right? You know, and you're going to go out and play that role. And they're all important to you and they're all genuine to who you are. But like if we can make products that are truly as complex and dynamic as the identities of the people who wear them, because modern identity is a journey. We're not like static destinations, you know, like we're not like our moms, like they get Chanel number 5, they wear it for the rest of their lives. And they're like one person from like when they graduate college to, you know, till the end. I mean, that's like, to me, that's kind of like a very scary idea.
Yeah. I'm certainly not the same person that I was like, honestly, pre-pandemic.
Oh, 100%. I mean, that's actually why we decided to launch our fine fragrance at the end of the pandemic, because we're like, people are going to come out of this and be like new people.
100%.
And I need a new fragrance for the new person that I am when I've come out of this thing. I'm not the same.
Gosh. Honestly, Matthew, like that's so funny. I was having this conversation Friday about personal fragrance, because that's something that I am just now starting to explore for me. You know, I want something, and I want something that I can wear that speaks to like, when someone like comes in contact, they're like, oh, India would wear that. That kind of thing. But it has that complexity of the masculine and the feminine, but not one versus the other. I'm not like a florally sweet, I'm kind of sassy, kind of complex. So I'm going to have to play around with Boysmells.
Don't you love it when you meet somebody new and like, you just like love their personality, and then you like go to like give them a hug after you've met them and you like smell their fragrance and you're like, oh my God, that is like the perfect fragrance for their, you know what I mean? Like when it like melds like that, and it's 100%. Like,
and that's what I want. I want it for my home. I want it for, well, let's face it. I mean, that's why we came out with the wellness line, because we were using aromatherapeutic, you know, like aromatherapy to evoke different emotions, right? A sense of well-being, you know, sleep, distress, energize, all those things, but using scent profiles, because you're absolutely right. There is a tie to an emotion for various different scent profiles. And I want someone, when they hug, it kind of envelops them, not to the point where they're like, oh my God, she definitely put on too much, but it lingers a little bit there. And then if they're walking, you know, in Manhattan, and all of a sudden a fragrance very similar, it evokes that, oh my God, I was thinking of Indy.
Yeah, totally. I love that it also can like that, like, you know, it can encourage someone to feel like they're in their most authentic self. Or like, you know, I think that sometimes, at least me growing up, I was always like so excited about everything I liked. I was like that kid who like couldn't contain their joy and excitement for stuff. But you kind of like start to like, you know, learn, you know, maybe somebody says something or you get picked on or whatever. You start to kind of like sometimes start to like learn to feel bad or conditioned to like feel bad about things that like you used to be like proud of or bring you joy. So like, you know, sometimes you feel like maybe not all the parts fit together in the way that you wish they would. But then you smell some beautiful fragrance and you're like, oh my God, it's joyous, but it's a little bit masculine. It's a little bit feminine.
100%.
You know, like it's a little this. And it's like, it smells so expensive. And it's like this beautiful, polished version of a way that you didn't see, you like maybe couldn't see yourself before. And like, you know, spraying that on and like that kind of like giving you the ability to see yourself, recompose the way you see yourself in this like really beautiful, expensive, special light, I think for me was incredibly powerful kind of when I was going through what I kind of call my second coming of age, which was like, you know, when you really kind of come to terms with, you know, I'm going to be me for myself, not me for somebody else. And that was such a powerful time in my life. And that really coincided with us starting Boysmells, you know, coming up with this genderful concept and really trying to kind of push things beyond the binary to like a real, like kind of like a white space of just everybody's welcome. Everybody be themselves. And let's like, here's some really modern things that like are going to reflect the modernity of like the culture and the individuals that we love today.
So I have a question. You have candles, then you went to fine fragrance.
Yes.
And then you went to underwear.
Yeah.
Okay. So not a linear path at all.
Almost in that order. Underwear. I'm sorry. Candles, underwear, then fine fragrance.
Okay. Sorry. I made that mistake. So, but still not a linear path.
Yeah.
I understand the candles and the fine fragrance. I was like, and but it makes sense. But I'm like, where did that come from? I'm now obviously understanding your love of design.
Yes.
An interesting product lineup.
So the traditionally, I don't know if that's the right way to put it, but I'll just put it that way. The traditionally feminine cuts, we call flat front styles. And the traditionally masculine styles we call pouch front. So it's not men's brief, women's brief. It's pouch front brief, flat front brief. The bralette is just called the bralette. So there are so many like cool, we're living in the age of Harry Styles being on the cover of Vogue in a dress. Like, it's so
Love
rad.
it.
Like, I see guys all the time on the internet, like wearing a blazer with the bralette underneath it.
Oh, I'm all for it. I love it.
And they got the matching pouch front on. Or, you see a girl doing the same thing. So we've like kind of created this like ability to like, everybody's welcome. Pick the fit that's right for you, not the fit that like defines your gender. We also make the same colors for men and women. So like for a lot of the men, the traditionally men's are like in these kind of more pastels and nude tones, which like felt kind of revolutionary. And that was like, we basically created the underwear that we wish came in colors that was available for us that just wasn't available. So we made that, and it's been a big hit. But for us, it's like the fragrance you put on, the underwear that you slip on, that candle that you light next to your bed,
very
like if
personal.
all of those, we call ourselves like objects of intimacy or personal products. But really it's like, if all of those like moments, and next year we're going to grow into apothecary, and like, if you can make brushing your teeth and like putting on your deodorant an identity affirming moment versus being like, who relates to like mint toothpaste? You know what I mean? Like,
right.
No one's like, oh, that's so me, you know?
Absolutely. But I love that sense of creating intimate moments with yourself and not being defined as feminine or masculine, but just a sense of self.
And yeah, that's absolutely true. That's like, you've nailed it. And if you can look in the mirror and be like, that's my ideal of beauty, and not like, oh, I fucking hate myself, and I look like shit, and like I don't look like the person on the shampoo bottle, and like all that stuff. Like, if we can stop if like the products we use every day can stop taking us out of ourselves but put us into ourselves, that's the goal. Like, I want to like wake up and like go and brush my teeth with like a rose and pink peppercorn flavored toothpaste, because I'm that bitch, like that's who I am, that's who I want to be.
It's about ownership too. It's really taking control and taking back that power. And I do think having the conversation, it makes so much sense, the underwear, to be quite honest with you, because when you put on something that feels very much you underneath, it's like anything you put on over that is just an extension.
Exactly.
But like, if I'll be honest, if I'm putting on this beautiful piece of lingerie, I'm wearing it for me.
Yeah.
I mean, my husband probably isn't thrilled to hear that, but that's for me. I want that beautiful matching set because that's what makes me feel like I'm powerful. Or if I'm wearing what would be considered like a boy short, that's also because it's comfortable and I just like stepping into it. And it makes perfect sense after having this conversation. I was first like, that's a fascinating choice. And I couldn't wait to dive into it with you.
I think you can view all of these moments as just extensions of self-care, right?
Oh, 100%.
It's like, if putting on your underwear and brushing your teeth can be a daily affirmation, like, I mean, it should be.
But I want to also congratulate you on the Pride collection that you guys are doing.
Oh, thank
hopefully,
you.
I mean, what you're doing and what you've created. I'm a huge RuPaul's Drag Race person. I was Team Simone, just so you know. But I just also wanted to congratulate you on that because I love how powerful and impactful you made it. So I just wanted to congratulate you on it.
Thank you. That is such, a great collection because it's a re-release of all of these limited edition scents that like people have been clamoring to get their hands back on. So we're so excited to like be able to bring the product back. But more importantly, we give $100,000 back to the Trevor Project for the months of June and July, which is like the most impactful part of it. Trevor Project is the nation's #1 crisis intervention and suicide hotline for LGBTQ youth. It is literally an essential life-saving service. 100%. And it's our second year partnering with them. Last year we gave $47,000, and this year we were so excited to like more than double that. And I won't name names, but there are huge corporations in the US that like, their yearly donation to an LGBT charity is $100,000. It is for us an incredibly substantial amount of revenue to give back to the organization, and we're super, super proud of it, and we hope that it leads as a standard for the expectation of revenue, like actual revenue that you get from Pride Month to what you give back to an LGBT organization. We hope that it is a guiding standard for other larger corporations to follow.
I definitely wanted to mention it because I was just blown away by it when I was reading, and I was like, unbelievable. I mean, talk about
such a fun campaign too.
That's just it. It was a fun campaign, but not only that, but what you did. I mean, to be able to give that kind, and I, as a small company, I know that's a substantial amount of money. That's a substantial amount. All right, and you're just creating so much hope for others in doing it, and what the brand stands for in and of itself. But then also to take that and be able to contribute that kind of financial donation is just something you guys should be incredibly proud of and congratulated on profusely.
Thank you so much. And like, I have to thank like everybody who starred in it, Brandon Flynn, Tommy Dorfman, Lena Bloom, Gottmik, and Simone. Everybody like showed up and shared like really honest and like poignant stories about community, queerness, pride, identity. And what I love about this campaign, it's not just selling the product, is really celebrating everybody's story and the uniqueness of their identity. The slogan for the campaign is radical self-liberation starts within, let your light shine, this pride. And, I think pride often is this like homogenizing moment for our community where it's like, we're all this one thing, or like, we're just this one, like it's kind of like, it's like, it just doesn't celebrate like individuality and uniqueness, which is like, for me as a queer individual, that is what I love about this community, is that, when you don't fall into like this heteronormative kind of trope, like you kind of just say goodbye to like all the rules, right? And it allows, and I've seen so many amazing and inspiring people from this community go out there and be themselves. And just by one person kind of being brave enough to just 100% like let it all hang out and live in their truth, I think is very inspiring to other peoples to do the same. So that whole collection and the whole campaign was really about like listening to other people and like handing over our platform to the people who starred in it to really like share their truth. And I think that that's such a powerful opportunity for us as a brand to be able to turn over our platform to them.
No, I completely agree. As someone who has now been going to various different drag shows to support people who work for me, I also have been very involved with it. It was so interesting to really understand what it meant and about the creativity, but also the stepping into oneself that I had no understanding of. I'll be completely honest. I mean, obviously I understood queer, but I'd never understood drag, to be honest with you. It wasn't that I was shunning it. I didn't understand the complexity of it. And the artistry and the stepping into various different self-expression. Something you had said was whether you're the entrepreneur drag, whether you're this drag. And it's so true because it invokes different personas.
Yeah. The whole idea of like, we all dress up.
Yes.
Like every day. And like you're born naked and the rest is drag, is like RuPaul says it.
Life's a drag, as we know.
Yeah. And it's the whole idea, the whole thing is kind of absurd, like drag is an absurd version of something that we do every single day, right? To go out and project the idea of whatever we want to project. So I love the whole concept, and it is such a fun kind of like, well, one, it's like so exciting and so fun to like go and observe these amazing performances and see the artistry and stuff like that. But I think the rise of drag popularity in our culture has also been like a really fun mirror for people to kind of be like, it's all absurd, so let me just go out there and be myself. And like,
but it normalizes it too. In the absurdity, you start to realize that this shouldn't be, this should be celebrated. What are you afraid of? You know what I mean?
Exactly. What does this bring up?
Right,
you know?
Exactly. And I love it for the artistry. I love it by the self-expression, but watching and saying, how do we start to bring this concept of fluidity, et cetera, self-expression to light? So let me ask you this question before I ask you my final one, is how do you feel other brands can support, join in on this concept of genderful?
Sure. I think every brand should do what feels right to them, right? You know, like that's what's great about Boysmells is like, it's not just like, we didn't like lock ourselves in a room and be like, how do we crack the gender code for inclusivity? You know, it's like, it's really like, this is true to like what we're interested in. This is true to who we are. This is how we see the world, and that's how we go through it. So I think it's like, most important thing is like, be yourself, right? You're always like, if you're true to yourself, like that is the most important thing. But genderfulness, I think, is really just about like changing your perspective on what gender means. So, you know, genderless ignores gender altogether, right? Genderful views gender as an opportunity for self-reflection and growth, right? So I think if you are just thinking about like, you know, rather than being like no gender, how can you try to be all genders? You know, how can you represent like straight women, straight men, gay women, non-binary and fluid people? Like why is there a world where any one of those things is threatening to the others? Like that's an insane concept to me.
100%.
And like, we're all like, you know, so I think like that kind of representation and understanding that there's an opportunity to invite more people into your brand, that is not only like a good moral ethical code, but it is a you know, financial opportunity as well. You know, like
of course,
like that's not why we did it, but that's why a lot of people are interested in our brand and its success, is because it's also smart business. If you look at millennial and Gen Z consumers, like, I mean, I didn't know any of this until about like 18 months ago when, you know, when somebody was like, here's why your brand's successful. You know, but like, if you look at the studies around, you know, millennial and Gen Z consumers, this is the way things are going. So it is not only the right thing to do, it not only like pushes the needle forward on the conversation and culture and like more representation and the shopping experience and the bathroom experience and the
breaking down barriers that shouldn't exist in the first place. At this point, you would think at this point, culturally, societally, our growth, like we're still here. Come on.
I know.
We shouldn't be.
But eventually, you know, these Gen Zers are going to age into being the alpha consumer, you know, age group. And then, you know, the existing alpha consumer age group is going to age out. And so I just think, you know, you got to just look at also, this is our natural story. So I'm very proud of it. It comes naturally to us. But I get asked this question a lot because it is kind of like what we lead with. And I also think it's just like good business advice for other entrepreneurs to really understand like that the culture and ideas around gender are really changing, and that it'll position you for the best success long term to be adopting these changes in psychology around, you know, what a brand can be to people and what it should mean to people. Like you should get in front of that versus be behind it, or else you're going to get left behind.
Perfectly said. So my last question is, as an entrepreneur, right, who's also working with your life partner, right? Okay. How do you find ways to recharge and be present?
Oh, I mean, that is such a great question and something that I struggle with, daily. Because there will never be a day where I'm like, got all the work done. You know what I mean?
It doesn't, please, that's impossible.
Because it is, because the brand becomes its own living and breathing thing, right?
Absolutely. It's a child to me. It's a living, breathing child that constantly needs to be fed and nurtured.
Yeah.
And yes.
Totally.
But if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of that child.
Absolutely. So I was super bummed when my yoga studio closed during the pandemic, but yoga is just now starting to reopen here in LA. I was in New York last week and I got to take a class at SkyTing, which I was so excited about. And so yoga is a really important part of recharging to me. I also work out, but it's an endorphin rush, but it doesn't really recenter me in myself in the way that yoga does. I specifically do this version of yoga called Katona yoga, which is really about embracing the the yin, the yang, the solar, the lunar, and what I consider the masculine and feminine. And so it's very true to our brand. And then I also try to travel, I went down to Mexico a couple of weeks ago to Puerto Escondido with one of my best friends, and we just hung out at the beach and we saw great art, and we went to Oaxaca. And so all of those things also, I love LA, but it can be a little bit of a hamster wheel. The weather never really changes. It's always beautiful. I just like to
had that conversation the other day. I was like, if we moved, where would it ever be? It's always beautiful. I'm like, I need the change of seasons from New York.
Totally.
Absolutely.
So I love to get away, spend time with family, and see new places and new cultures and things like that. That keeps me creatively recharged, It allows me to take on new perspectives and widen my overall kind of scope of how I see the world, which is super important to me. So both of those things are super important. And then, I mean, who can resist hanging on the couch with your dogs and watching a little Netflix too? That don't knock it.
Did it last weekend, so I'm with you. So how can people find you?
Boysmells.com. You'll be able to find the whole product range. We have expanded into 50 Nordstrom doors.
I know, so good.
So exciting. And we'll be in all 100 by the end of August,
Amazing.
Which we're so proud of. In the UK, you can find us at Space NK. In France, you can find us at Galeries Lafayette. In Australia, you can find us at Mecca. So those are kind of our bigger scale partners that you might be able to find in your local areas. So check us out first online, of course. And then, but if you want to try before you buy, please go into store and check us out at any of those.
And
retailers. Instagram at Boysmells, BOY__SMELLS.
Thank you so much for taking time today. I greatly appreciate it.
Oh my God, this was fun. I really enjoyed myself.